Hello there, Outliers. My name is Niiamah Ashong, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey. We here at the Outliers Edge are focused on helping you continue to step into the edge of your greatness and the edge of your comfort zone so you can go and truly be seen, celebrated, and valued for who you are. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, a leader of whatever form you decide to step into, the world needs you. It needs more of you. And we get a chance right now to speak to one such leader who continues to grow, continues to show up in the world, and does it in a way that creates more space and opportunities for others. We're talking today with Naomi Hurley. Naomi, thank you for being the outlier that you are, and welcome to our conversation.
Thank you for having me. And I loved the name of your podcast being Outliers because sometimes that's a superpower, but sometimes it can be, you can feel a little bit odd and weird. And so I think we need to embrace our inner outlier, right? Because that's what makes us unique and special.
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna play on that. I want to find out more about your outlier. And I think what you're giving me is something here, like a nice little bridge where it's like, I want to embrace the inner outlier together, but also
Yeah.
see how have you taken that inner outlier and created outer outlier results, right? And see like both how both of them like dance with one another. Sound good to you?
Yeah, no, it does. And it wasn't always easy, right? Because being an outlier, there is a risk of rejection. And so that always brings up fear in people. So we can unpack that as we go. But I think it's
Yeah.
a lot of courage and bravery you need.
Oh, unpack it. We shall. Like in the meantime, let's let people know where let's give people a chance to get to know you, right? And the way that I like to do this here, I realized like in the past I used to read bios, and I was like, and it just felt so dead to me. Like I
Mm,
was like, it just wasn't it for me. I couldn't get there. What I
yeah.
want to do is do two things. I shared a little bit about this, but first I want to just go and share a bit about who you've been to me, and like the experience that I've had of you. It just really grounds me into like the awesomeness of you for this conversation.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
and I want outliers to know like how awesome you are. And then the second part of it then is that I'll then give you space to speak about your mission and what you're creating in the world.
Mhm.
The purpose of that there is to give us context because we're going to go spend some time like listening to some of what like how you see the world, how you like your inner outlier. I think that in the past I would miss out on helping people recognize like this person is a really big deal. When I share about you and my experience of you, it's going to be
Yeah.
like how I interact with you. But I feel like it gives us so much more room to go in the inner game when we just let them know like how we're playing the external game. You good with that?
Sounds
All right.
great.
All right, cool. So let me first start off by just like letting you know about the impact you've had on me and who you've been to me. I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. I just know I'm going to do it. So Naomi, like, let me take this in. So when I spend time with you, what I feel, and like the words will come through in just a bit, but it's like uh, I feel possibility. It's like there's an element of structure that comes in. Like it almost feels engineered, but it isn't like engineered. It's just like I'm almost gonna say like engineered possibility, but there's something else. Maybe it's architected. Like there's
Mm,
something in there where I think that it's like you're deliciously like creative, and then you find a way to support that with like the scaffolding and structure of something robust. Right now I'm even taking I'm able to see you here and outliers. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can come back and like see Naomi like in the picture, but you have this beautiful picture of like catching the octopus behind you, right? And it's
mm,
just like well designed, like something that is like very abstract on one level, and yet the level of like how you show up to bring fidelity to it is really robust. And I want to say like I see that in you, and the impact that you've had on me is that you've shown me once again that this is something separate, but showing up with generosity and service and co-creation can lead to some really amazing things. And for that, I appreciate that gift of my lived experience with you. Thank you for being who you are.
oh, thank you very much. Like I don't know if you can see if I'm blushing or not, but that was a really nice way to put it. And I appreciate you. I know from the first moment I met you, I appreciated you too. And I think I just like to see everyone win, right?
Mm.
So I think that's what sort of drives me in everything that I do. It brings me joy to see not just smiles on people's faces, but I feel energy as well, right? But feeling that energy shift in them to actually believe in themselves and believe things are possible, and creating curiosity is something that I'm all about. So I think if I can leave a conversation and I've left something that creates curiosity in that person about maybe what they're capable of, or little things that they can go and explore, even some of these esoteric little spiritual things that are on the outliers, if I can open them up, then I feel like I've done part of my purpose of being here.
Like we like to play in the space of the outliers. So like bring all of you. Help us get a chance to see all of you right now, if you don't mind. Share a bit about who you are personally and professionally, and we'll take it off from there.
Okay. So I have a bit of a, I suppose, boring background. So I started off, my career was based around HR and safety. And so I was a HR safety manager for a large transport company, which was very challenging. And I still got to be creative because, if there was a major incident, I would have to go and investigate it, come up with solutions, implement things and do things, implement them in a way that it didn't upset too many people, right? Because no one likes safety. Let's be honest. No one really liked HR either. But I was able to do it in a way that people would actually come to me for support and advice. And so I did that through understanding people and trying to bring the best out in them. And so that then led me on to doing a psychology degree. So I went and did that. And just before I finished that, I found a thing called rapid transformational therapy, or RTT. So it's a modality of therapy that's being created by Marissa Peer in the UK. And so I joined in with her training course and I completed that. And I kind of shifted a little bit then, because the psychology was amazing, but I found that this method really helped me serve the way I wanted to serve. So I shifted more into the hypnotherapy space. I work still now with corporate entities doing culture change, leadership development, and I'm a big fan of workplace psychological safety. So setting up spaces where everyone feels like they can be who they need to be. And then I also work with individuals with the RTT. Now, part of that accreditation is we have sessions with other practitioners just so that we can hone our skills a little bit. I was having this session done on me as a client this one day, and one of the scenes that came up for me seemed to be in a past life. And I believe in spiritual elements, and I've always, meditated those sorts of things, but that was kind of an outlier, right, for where my logical mind would go. So it got me curious. And I grabbed 6 of my friends. I'm like, can I try something out on you? And they trusted me enough, thank goodness, to let me go there. And all but one of them, I got them back into past lives, and not just into past lives, but they went into this space of an in-between life space too, which is like what I call in front of a divine council. So have all of these gurus, these spirit gurus there that are giving them information. And my mind just erupted. And so that's my main outlier now, is coming into that space and helping people become curious about not quite where we are now, but what's the soul been through? Not what Naomi has been through in this life, but what's the soul created from? What sort of events and things have happened that have established that inner sense of who I am? And I also do a lot, you said giving back. I think giving back is super important for our own growth, development, and purpose here in this lifetime. So part of a few boards, non-for-profits, those sorts of things as well, in, if you can say, my spare time. And I have 2 amazing children. So I throw in some parenting in there as well from time to time.
I really appreciate you right now. It's really cool to see you have multiple parts of your skill set. And what I really appreciate is your level of ownership of each part, right? Outliers, like if you go back, like maybe even go back and just listen to this here, but it's like there are different parts of you that go from like the corporate version, and even just within the corporate, it's really clear. In the corporate, I like these 3 things, and here goes something you may not have heard. Let me make that clear for you, right? And it's just owning that component, right? But then you brought it into the individual. and your level of ownership with both the journey that you got that took there, as well as like the element with the past life, like that part to me also really just comes through. And so I'm recognizing right now we may be having some connection issues. So I just want to just like take a pause in it, see it real quick here, acknowledge it. Outliers, if you're listening to this here, this will all be resolved in about a second here. Looks like we're there. But I as you are saying that, I really just want to reflect back into the level of ownership that you have about it, especially because like the people listening to this, we're all outliers, and we're like, but how do I take this one thing that I did over there and like I can read energy and I got this over here and no one really knows about that. And if they really knew about it, then like either they would run for the hills or they wouldn't want to buy from me, or they wouldn't like there's all these other stories that come along with it. I would love to just slow down a little bit, just like acknowledge that which what you've built there.
Mm.
And just get any thoughts you have around like the ownership process of all these different parts of you.
Yeah, so I haven't always been as confident in owning it as what I am sitting here today. And I think that's something that I'd like to be quite vulnerable about, because there is a sense of me as well. You know, I have other projects as well that I didn't mention because I don't want this to be a bragging session. But, you know, when people really get to know me,
Sorry,
so
I gotta like jump in, but like feel free to brag.
okay.
And it's it's not bragging if it's true. And then at the other side of this here, I find that like people think about bragging as what they've done in the past, but like I want to give us space to be able to brag in terms of where we want to go in the future. And I feel like if we
Yeah.
don't give ourselves that space in the past, then we can't really give ourselves there. Give us the context. We're good. We
Cool.
good.
All right. So
Yeah.
well, let's start with the bragging. So
Yeah.
I also have the Catching the Octopus podcast. I'm also an avid learner. I'm just one Simon away of finishing a business in master's in business psychology, and I'm also looking at the moment of trying to find someone to set me up in a PhD. Trying to find a university that will support me. So I want to do reducing gender bias through hypnosis, because I kind of believe gender bias isn't a man problem; it's a people problem, and I think we're not getting anywhere because as soon as it's raised, there's something implicit in usually the male gender that go, oh, here I go, I'm going to be attacked again, but I'm a good person. No. I've realized in some of the testing, I've got a gender bias, right? And I'm very pro-female. So it's something that is actually a cultural thing and a societal thing. And so I want to bring light to that. So, but with the standing on my own, in my own space, being confident with that, it really did take a lot for me to do that. And that was because I think most of my career was established in male-dominated industries in very logical roles. And so I was seen and looked at as the logical person. And like most people, there is a little element in me that likes to be liked, right? So I would hold back on some of my complete outliers just so I could fit in. And so when I first started doing the past life regressions, I wasn't as open in telling people that. Even when I first started doing RTT, I didn't use the word hypnotherapy. Like in all my marketing stuff, I would say, oh, I've got this modality that takes you into like a space of like a deep meditation, and we go and explore. And then this moment, I'm like, why aren't you just saying hypnotherapy? And what I have found over time is as I have stepped into this space and had more confidence about it, you know, yes, there are some people that probably don't connect with me anymore, but it's opening up a whole new tribe, right? Because now I'm showing up as me. It's actually now working as a magnet to grab those other people that go, oh, I like that element, or oh, I'm curious about that. And there are some people from that business community, though, that I underestimated and didn't realize that they have little outliers that they've been pushing down too. So it's just opened up those relationships and created stronger connections.
You know, I'm gonna just want to keep unpacking this with you real quickly. Firstly, outliers. I'm gonna invite you really quickly. We Naomi really just stepped into just owning you with like I'm gonna brag. All right, fine, here we go. Right.
Yeah.
My invitation for you, outliers, is just to go back right now and just check in. How did it feel like when you heard it? Right? Did you like how did it feel for you? Like get that reflection. Because I what was really interesting to me was when you got done, I was like, oh, that like Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, these are things you're doing, you know. And I think it was a really great gift because of the frame that we had here. I think it was a really great gift to give outliers a chance to be able to like see and hear for themselves where what it like the what it's like to hear the list of things that
Yeah.
someone has done and to realize like whether or not they actually felt what they think other people would feel. So thank you for
Hmm.
that, man, because it gave us just an opportunity to just like sit into that a little bit, you know. And not like, I like to play with you as we have these conversations. So we'll continue that going on. And if you feel anything too, Naomi, like feel free. We'll bring the outliers into the combo. That's right. Um, so that's one. Two. I I I want to spend a little bit of time on this part if you're good with it around like the confidence to bring all these different components in. Because honestly, I feel like a lot of it is real for me right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
I I recognize when you talked about the hypnotherapy and you're saying like calling it what it is as opposed to like describing what it is. Um, I recognize for myself that like I've been getting caught in that own trap myself, where there's
Yeah.
some component of I don't I don't right? Right. That's the first level. That's the first level that I want to say. Right. Oh,
Mm.
I'm not understood. I don't know if it's really about not being understood though. I think it goes another level deeper is like, what if they don't like this?
Mm.
What like, another level deeper is like it's like I believe like what would it mean about me if everything I believe about what I think is amazing is not right? You know?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different areas where I get in my own way instead of just saying what it is.
Yeah.
I'll I'll be like I thought I was being really clear,
Yeah.
and so I would love to get your thoughts on that. And you mentioned something around confidence that I also want to bring in, but let me get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting space, and one of the things that I do believe, and sometimes I don't walk my talk, but rejection is protection, right? It's that redirection into where we should be. And there is also there's also benefits to rejection because we never grow without suffering, right? And so sometimes, or most times, humans will push away the suffering. They suppress it, or they distract themselves, or they do those sorts of things. But sitting in it, and like you said before, is reflecting, how did that make me feel? Oh, interesting. Become curious. Why did it make me feel like that? And actually using that suffering as a growth tool, is how we level up. And then that improves how we show up. And I think that's where the confidence comes from, because I kind of know I'm going to show up. If I'm triggered, I'm triggered. I'll go back later and I'll unpack that with myself and go, oh, that triggered you. I wonder why. And once we start becoming curious about those things that trigger us, they have less power over us. And so it reduces the fear element that comes along with them.
I like this place of reducing the fear. Um, there's something that someone said to me once, and it stayed with me. And I was at a group event, and it was a group event with coaches, and she said, "I've never been in a place where people are like actively seeking to be triggered," you know. And I remember being in there and thinking to myself, "Yeah, I'm really good with that. Like why? Literally, what I said was to myself was like." Why would I be here otherwise? Like, because that, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to be in this, I want to be in an environment where I can see what it is that's holding me back that can't like mentally think of right now,
Mm,
and
mm,
to your point, like for me it wasn't about going away alone and going to think about it, but I was like, this is a space where we had people there that can unpack it with me. Hey, earlier
right.
today this thing happened and my energy went to like a level 12,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like and I'm like, I'm not sure if you noticed. And they're like, of course we noticed. Like it was, and we have that space. So, so that component of like suffering as a growth tool, I think that
Mm.
it's really great. But it's not just the suffering alone. If I'm hearing you, it's the processing of it afterwards, a reflection of it afterwards.
Yeah, and yes, you can't sit in it, right? That's not the end game. The end game isn't to become victimized by the suffering. The end game is to use that suffering as a tool. So it's like being, you know, a tradesperson and having the world's best drill, but you're using this cheaper one because it's easier to access, right? Go the extra bit, grab that, you know, sit in that suffering and embrace it instead of pushing it aside. And you'll find, you know, I'm a bit the same as what you said there, is I actually now from time to time I go, oh, I feel like I'm becoming comfortable. Okay, I'm going to push myself to do something that I know is going to trigger me. And I know it's not for everyone, but at least when you are triggered, if it's not intentional, embrace it, explore it, you know, and yeah, reach out to your networks and or your coach and unpack it, use it as a tool.
Like outliers. So I'm going to bring this in for us because I think that's part of the reason why we got to where we were. We were in the place we got, like the number of people I talked to who are like, I'm the first person in my family who I'm like, or like there's, yeah, you get, you know, so there's all these elements where we ended up in places that were deeply uncomfortable and we had to work through it. And now we're on a place with like where we're continuing to build that out there. And I just want to say, like, don't, it wasn't a defect. It wasn't it was actually something that was supporting you along your journey to get to where you are now. So I'll let's just think about that here. If you've been trying to protect yourself from being triggered, you know, find a way to do it in a like that doesn't like harm you, but like I think there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good in that. If you continue to build the tools in it, and I think a lot of times we are invited to run away from it. And I think that with like the right kinds of things done with the right level of support, whether you can bring it to yourself or you're in a space where others can, it really does open up things here.
Yeah. And just to add to that, and I like where you touched on there, you know, what I'm talking about is becoming your authentic self, not overcoming major trauma and things like that. You know,
Thank
that
you.
needs additional support, right? Like you need therapy and things like that. Don't go and trigger yourself without having a network of support if you're in that space. But what I'm more talking about is just those everyday things as we're growing and evolving, right? So, and becoming our authentic selves, it's thrown around all the time. You need to be your authentic self. It's scary to be your authentic self if you're not in the right room. You know, there's definitely, I know all of the outliers listening would know that there's a room that they are their authentic self and they don't hold back. And so what it is having more confidence to show up like that. And maybe you will get pushed out of that room. Okay, process how that makes you feel. But I guarantee you'll find a new one because there's rooms out there for everyone, right? Someone will see our value. Even if this person doesn't, there's 100,000 million other people that will.
But like, why don't you take us to a time here? Let's make that real here. Like, maybe you can give an example when you found yourself doing that yourself, and then we'll see where the conversation goes from there.
Yeah, so we have I'm part of the local chamber, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And when I first started my business, I was really pushing the corporate side first because for me, I was still tied into that. And for me, that had status and identity. And so I really needed to make that part of my business successful. So I went to what they call a business after hours, which happens once a month. And I was working the room and I had come across this one gentleman. I was talking to him and he had another friend that came up. They said to me, oh, what do you do? And I told them what I did. I felt the energy shift in them and become like what I do is I feel it retract if I go too hard, right, with what I do, because not everyone understands it. So as soon as you don't understand something, you obviously turn away from it. And once I'd shared what I did, they both just kind of nodded and said, oh, that's really great. And then there was silence and they're like, oh, you should go, you know, if you've got a new business, you need to go and work the room and introduce yourself to other people. And then kind of turned away from me. And it brought up so much stuff. And it actually, even for a little bit, if I'm being honest, it sent me a bit backwards, right? And then I was like, okay, I can't show up like that. This is what's going to happen. But when I became more curious about it, then I was like, no, this, like we all say, it's not about me. This was about them. What I need to just do, I suppose, if I don't want to feel like that, is read the room a bit better, feel when that happens, and step away myself. Don't let them be the ones that push me away. I can step away. I have that power. So, you know, there's multiple. I could go on and on about examples, but that's probably the one that really was significant for me. And I woke up in the morning and I still felt in my body that I was feeling pretty much not enough, right? That's what it does when it triggers us, right? Everything triggers that not enoughness. Yeah, and
That's
then yeah, keep going. Sorry.
it's one of those things that really gets me, the not enoughness around this here, because I was like, it's a really, you're in like the messed up part of the matrix where like because you feel you're too much, you're made to feel you're not enough. Like
Yes.
it doesn't actually add up. Like I'm because I think I'm too much, because like I feel as though I'm not enough.
Yeah.
It's and like I've had that's been my journey, the too muchness, you
Yeah.
know. And I think like to the point where I now got to the place where like my motto is like, if it's not too much, it's not enough, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You
Love
know,
that.
but I like I feel you when you're describing that, like I felt it inside. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it actually took me to a space where I was in a conversation. So I joined a high level mastermind with some really great coaches who had a lot of different modalities, and um, it was a space that I got a chance to be me,
Mm-hmm.
or like
Mm-hmm.
that was what I wanted. I wanted to be in a place where that was the case, and um, I was the youngest. I was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, in the room. And I knew like one of my major goals was like I want to be peers with everyone in this space, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm
Yeah.
like I just want to whatever I feel inside that makes me not feel that. I'm like we're all in the same room. We all sit in the same circle. It's time to actually be peers. And what one of the things that occurred was I remember getting angry in the space, right? And that element of anger, I hadn't it's not a feeling I actually feel very safe with. Growing up as a
Mm,
black man in America, like the thoughts of
mm,
someone being angry or perceiving me as angry felt like a life-threatening thing, or at least a livelihood-threatening thing. No, actually, like a life-threatening thing, if I'm real honest. And I remember being angry, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna let myself be angry. This is cool. Like, I gotta do it." Um,
mm.
and saying to them, like, "Hey, you all do." They like, there was um witches and shamans and like there's a lot of different types of modalities in that space, and I'm like
Yeah.
and I understand you, you know like,
Yeah.
and I'm getting upset here because like I'm just doing like what I would consider more standard coaching. I have a big movement under like in me, but like this feels pretty straightforward, like, so
Yeah.
what's going on. And I had someone come to me afterwards, and she said something that changed my life. I'm still working with it, but she said it, and she said, I think there's a disconnect. I think you hear when we say we didn't understand what you said, I think you hear it as we don't understand you as a person. But the reality is that whatever you put out there, like we honestly just don't understand. So maybe you can say it next time it happens, maybe you can say it differently or ask a clarifying question. Like, okay, so it looks like that didn't really land. Like, what about this? Where did I lose you? What like, and to be in there. And I was activated. I won't use the word triggered in this case, so we can use more like activated with the authenticity journey, because that's where it is. I was
Yeah.
activated, and I was like, I I guess that makes sense, but yeah, it took me to that with the conversation, and basically you talk about creating curiosity. I think there's like two parts of it. One is like, can I own my own curiosity to say, hey, I know I make sense to me, but something doesn't line up with you. I know that you aren't rejecting me, but there's something about that delivery that didn't work. So let me get better at that. And then the other side of it is like, I know I also look for people who have that innate curiosity too. And they seek to understand. They're like, even if like whatever you said, can you just explain it this way or what? Like it makes a difference. And so like
Mm,
that one in particular, especially since we're talking about being too much and that specific environment there, I like it takes me to that right then and there, and this feeling, that element of like, oh, are you rejecting me or not? Or am I such an outlier? Have I gone from being an outlier to an outsider because like you can't understand me? Be curious if
yes.
that brings up anything for you or
Yeah, yeah, I love the way you put that through. And I think one of the things as humans that we tend to do so much is just take things personally. And nothing really is personal. You know, even if I ran into someone in the shop and I accidentally bumped them and they exploded and went just off their face, that's not about me, right? That's about their conditioning, how they were, you know, raised, what their subconscious programming is, all of those sorts of things. And I just need to go into myself and go, did I do that on purpose? No. Well, then that's okay. Yes, I apologize. Yes, I own it, but I don't need to take on that whole energy that comes with that from the other person. And like you say, there's people that I come across. First off, if I go to the first element, that surprised me, right? That when I actually now mention this, they're like, oh, I do this and I do that. And, you know, I sometimes play with cards and things like that. And they'll go, oh, I've got these really great cards. And I look at them in this business suit. I'm like, you have cards? What? And so it just opens up the conversation, right?
I'm loving this here because like it's funny because you know, Outliers Edge. Hey, Outliers, let me talk to Outliers. Outliers, let me talk. Like I mentioned all that stuff here, but like it's a made up concept. It doesn't actually exist, right? And we get to choose the data sets that we're in, right? And it
Yeah.
just might be like it, like in what I heard about what you were saying, it was like, oh, they were also outliers. They just chose not to let people know about it, you know?
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
like, so it's like, oh, we weren't actually alone. We weren't the only ones out there. It's just the conversation hadn't been created. The courageousness and opening up the space for that to exist as well hadn't been created until you brought it in. And they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
love this stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what deck are you using right now? You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that you just hit the nail on the head. We are all outliers in one particular way, but due to, so I do a lot of work with the subconscious. So I work with the soul element and the subconscious element of who we are, which brings me so much joy. I love unraveling that with people.
Yeah,
But
I'm sitting here, I'm like, you just keep getting more and more interesting. Keep going. Keep going.
And so what I've learned is how we show up now is not who we are. It's how we show up, right? And that's
Can you say
from
that
if
one
you
more time? Because like I hear you and it feels really profound. And it's like, and I'm like, I've learned to like ask for it one more time when that's it. I think I need that to like actually sink in. Say it again, please.
so how we show up, like how we interact with the world and how we present ourselves is very rarely who we are. It's just how we show up. And who we are is, in essence, that little infant that was born for me many years ago, right? That would cry whenever they needed something without feeling shame and guilt. Okay. Would, you know, defecate their nappy, make a huge mess without shame and guilt. Would rock bad hair days, chunky thighs, whatever, without shame and guilt. And what life does to us is, yes, we need to fit into society. So there's purpose to it, but it shapes us into what it thinks we should be through caregivers, peers, colleagues, you know, all our whole life takes us there. And I think once we get to that point where we can recognize that, hey, we can use that and show up in society how we need to, but we can also go, okay, that's the coat. Okay, I'm taking it off. This is who I am. This isn't the way I need to show up here. Okay, I need to show up there like that. Okay, put my coat back on. I'll, you know, camouflage and I'll go in and I'll do what I need to do. And I think that's where you can step into the confidence to be your own authentic self when you recognize that those things are two different things.
So I'm so thrilled with this conversation. Like I'm gaining a lot from it. And that's what I look for. I look for to make sure like I'm like growth growth is happening. Um, we're about to wrap up the conversation, but there's one area that keeps coming to me, and I'm grateful for your background here with that has these different things that you have going on. Is in this space of continuing to open things. So I like think we have another conversation that's just like, all right, let's just dive into like the soul, like because I have some things related to that. I like, and I know my soul's purpose, which is to
Yeah.
like to like be help people be seen, celebrated, and valued. Um, what this is leading me to is if I'm getting you from part of your journey, you started expanding what you offer to people. You started adding some, and I do this, and I do this, or if this is for you, this is also there. I'm curious about the experience you had with people who knew you in one capacity. And then as you continue to expand, Okay, I see you nodding
Yeah.
here. Could you like I love love to talk about it because I think a lot of us here as outliers are like, but like if they really knew me, if I brought this in, so on and so forth. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So my true tribe opened their arms wide, right? And I was celebrated in their eyes. And even some of them were like, it took you long enough, right? Not those words, but that's the feeling I got. However, there were some people that I did interact with that I could feel them in, energetically rolling their eyes at what I was doing. And I had to go through that process we spoke about before, because at the time, yeah, it hurt. But now I realize, like, I still see them say hello in business circles, but I realize that they don't see the value that I bring. That's not on me, right? That's on them. And so, although I still will work with them and I'll still do things, they're not my tribe. So, I think it's stepping out of the fear of how they're going to respond, because you're going to get both. I can guarantee if someone right now is listening to this and goes, right, I'm going to step into my true self, brace yourself, because you're going to get both ends of the scale. You're going to get the middle people that really didn't care. You're going to get some of the people that go, wow, you do that, mind blowing. And then you're going to get some that go, oh, wow, you do that. It's going to happen. So once we actually acknowledge that that is real, then we can go, well, what are we going to do with that? Right? Okay, we're going to see them relationships of you do that, where they sit. We're going to see those people that go, wow, that's what you do, as going, okay, these are the people that celebrate me. This is where I'm going to shine.
So I want to bring in one last place because this is another place that my clients they'll push back here. So like I really want
Yeah.
to see how like what your thoughts are. It comes out to some variation of, but Niiamah, I want to be there for everyone. I don't want to leave people behind. A, or I don't want to be seen as too big for my britches or too tall for this, XYZ, right? So what do you like? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any experience on that in terms of like, hey, as you keep growing, as like you're more than where you like you've allowed more than we got.
Yeah.
All right, I see you nodding. You got this. What do you
Yeah.
got for us?
So it sounds like you were talking to me 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? And so I really connect with this. And I think we just, how can I put this the right way? I just feel like when I do follow that, when I do allow that out, right, is when I light up inside. So it's even, then it not becomes about the people around me. It becomes about me. And if you're in that space where it is too uncomfortable or unsafe to be who you are, because that's what does happen in life. Sometimes it's unsafe for us to show up as our authentic selves. Then you do need to play the game. But know that if you don't change your environment and become in a space where it is safe to be you, you're not going to have that space of lighting up. And I don't know if you can feel it from me now, but I can feel my energy rising now. And I can even feel it, if you watch it, you can see me animating even more. But when I think about those spaces where I really get to be who I am and show up there, it exceeds any other joy that I've ever had in my life, because that's where I'm meant to be. And it's kind of like, God, universe, source, whatever it is, I feel this immense, not just how I am internally, but I actually feel an external, like, yes, girl, that's what you're meant to do. And it's like that unconditional love, that universal proud, someone's really proud of me in the way that I'm showing up. And it's kind of like I'm getting a clap from our creator going, yes, that feeling far exceeds a feeling of shrinking and being small.
Naomi, I am full of joy right now. And I'm grateful for you here. We're going to start wrapping up this conversation here. I'm going to do it with three short questions for you. Okay.
Sure.
The first one here is just like, what's an insight that you had in this conversation? I love to like growth has come back as a value for me. And I'd just love to like just capture like what's one thing that shifted for you. And I'm happy to share one of mine as well.
Well, stepping into being my authentic self, I put a lot on the things that I do that are outliers, right? So on my past life regressions, one of my things I'm pushing myself to do is get on other people's podcasts as well as growing my own. And we tend to talk about the past life regression events. You know, what are the amazing things that come through? And I get a lot of joy from that. But, you know, sharing that wisdom element in this podcast actually brought me as much joy. And so for me, my insight for this, what I'm going to take away is, Gnomes, yes, those past life regressions are a big part of you, but they're not you either. This, how I showed up today, this is me, and this is what I need to do more of.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so very, very much. Like, I get excited for the skills that you have and what you bring to, like, how you bring it there. Because who you be as you bring those skills out, like, is really powerful. It's really powerful. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's excited. And so can you share with us, like, how outliers out here, if they want to continue down your world, if they want to get to know you more, or, you know, experience some of the greatness you have, whether it's in the individual context or in a corporate context, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably best way is just jumping on my website. So getupandgrowconsulting.com.au. You'll see that I have my corporate services and my individual services split up on there, and have a look. I also have courses, events, do free webinars, all those sorts of things that people do that you can have a look at as well. But if you wanted to connect with me, then I suggest jumping on LinkedIn or on Facebook. So again, I show up different in different rooms because that's what society tells us to do. So LinkedIn, I sprinkle in a little bit of my awesomeness in there from the spiritual sense, but it is more a professional sort of platform. Whereas my Facebook, I let that go a bit crazy. So you'll get some inner wisdom shares out of that one, and just really how I feel from time to time, and how I can show up through those feelings.
I appreciate it. Outliers, take her up on it, like, and we'll continue on from there. Now, I mean, we're going to end with the last question, which I call the time capsule question. And the time capsule question is one where you leave a message for yourself that you'll listen to in 10 years, right? So what's the message that you like? The context I like to have in here is, like, it's a message that when you hear it, you'd be like, thank you for the reminder, right? So it's taking your inner wisdom right now and leaving it for yourself to come back to in 10 years. What's one message you would like to leave for yourself?
That sounds easy, but it's really, I feel like it needs to be really profound. But then in my mind, I'm like, are you overthinking this? Because I do tend to overthink things. I think, just, you know, summing up probably the messages that we've talked about today and what we've shared today, and just, Naomi, if you're listening to this in 10 years' time, chick, you are enough. Like, if you fall over and scrape your knee, get back up, push forward. Oh, I get emotional because you've got this, girl, and everything you are is exactly who you need to be. Sorry.
You never have to apologize to me. You're great. You're great. Yeah. Thanks for letting that.
That was deep. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I appreciate you. And I'm grateful that you show up with the fullness of you and that you keep bringing it. I am, and I don't say this often, but I am in awe of you, and it is really awesome. And it's great to be in that space. I love spending time with people who I'm a little bit in awe of, and they're a little bit in awe of me. And so,
Yeah.
thank you for bringing all of you, and thank you for continuing to grow that. And I look forward to, like, where we take things from here. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for connecting us, because I can see that you're one of those souls that's part of my tribe. Thanks so much for what you do.
Thankfully, right? I'm like, gotta get my octopus tattoo on, you know? All right, Naomi. I'll talk to you soon, all right? Be well.
Thank you.